I think most players are saying there will be some moderation from the rip-roaring growth that the company has seen during the pandemic, and maybe that's reflected in the stock today.
Yeah, as you said, it's difficult for me to be eloquent about the day-to-day movements of the stock or of any stock for that matter, because in the macro, as you said, it was an unbelievable fiscal year 21 for us, and having 50% top line growth at this scale, going up to $1.5 billion in revenue, we feel really good about the growth. I think from a standpoint of the short-term movements, it's an area where I don't think we have a lot of insight for you. I do think that people are always going to be focused on when you've had that kind of growth, is it pandemic specific? In our case, we think people aren't going back to pen and paper. We think once they've seen the opportunity to modernize their business and digitally transform their business, they're going to be staying with DocuSign and continuing to transform their businesses going forward.
Was my initial thought exactly, Dan. And I'm not, not trying to promote the company, but I can see how there's a lot of other things that we got, had to do at home because of the pandemic. I would like to never go person to person to sign whatever needs. It's so much more convenient or to use snail mail to print something out, fill it out, sign it, scan it, send it, all that stuff. It's so, and when people don't have DocuSign now, I almost ask them, what's your problem? Why don't you have DocuSign? Now, the next step, so I don't think people go back to doing it the old way. So in that regard, you should be, but then again, I don't know how much growth you can actually engender since everybody's sort of, I think notarized stuff, and that's something you're working on, right?
Yeah. I think when you think about the overall sign business, we do think it's going to continue to grow, and we've given guidance that we're going to go from now about $1.5 billion to $2 billion in our range for the coming year. So we do think there's a significant amount of growth ahead. We look at it from a TAM standpoint, John. We look at it about a $25 billion business for sign, and we have the dramatic market share lead in the market. And so from that standpoint, we're really still in the early innings of this game, and we think there's a lot of growth. On the one hand, it's what you say, some of the observation, particularly in the United States, people say, hasn't everyone already gone to DocuSign? And the answer is, we're coming up on 900,000 customers, so that's a lot. But when you think of all the businesses around the world, it's a lot more than 1 million businesses. So we think there's a lot of growth ahead. And the only thing I'd add to you, it's also just beyond signature. If you think about our DocuSign Agreement Cloud, where you bring in notary as another component of sign, but you've also got the CLM market, the way you manage agreements, the way people prepare agreements. There's a lot of growth ahead for this business.
So what type of penetration would you estimate you have right now in this country and then globally? Is it single digits? It's got to be more than that.
We think it's single digit penetration for that TAM in the U.S., high single digit in the U.S., and probably low to mid single digits depending on which other countries you're in around the world. So we've got a lot of growth ahead. And I think the theme you really hit on, which is right, it's the way we're moving into what we like to call the anywhere economy. And we think that the phenomenon is people aren't going to, even in a post, pandemic, they aren't going to say, now I want to, get in my car or send the mail or do any of the components you described. They're going to say, I want to be able to do this, anywhere, anytime. And that's what we think we're going to play into as a continued growth.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.